I'm back. I'm alive. I actually have something really special here on the table today. Um, this is, I forget the name of the company that makes this. But this is the Golden Warrior, or Gold Warriors, as the manual says. Let me corroborate that with the box, which is really big and does not fit in the frame. I apologize. Normally I would show that. Yeah, the box says Golden Warrior. Anyway, this is something really special because this is what in the community we call a third party kit. Now, let me give you kind of an overview where third party in this terminology comes from. So if we go to maybe an adjacent fandom, you have things like, whoa, excuse me. You have things like this guy, who is a bit too tall. This is... excuse me while I adjust my camera. This is the Fans Toys Berserk. And it probably... oh, that's my finger. You're probably thinking to yourself, oh, that looks like a Transformer. That looks like a Hasbro product. That looks like Blitzwing. And you'd be correct. This is actually, though, kind of where maybe third party got its origin. Now, you can make a lot of arguments. Third party has been around in Gundam and model kits in general for many years, in the form of, like, say, garage kits. But I think what a lot of people recognize as quote-unquote third party today can be traced back to stuff like this. So this is not made by Hasbro. This is made by a company called Fans Toys, as I mentioned before. And it's not called Blitzwing, it's called Berserk. It's a legally distinct name. His sword is getting in the way of his face. But this is a very, very fancy, high quality, high diecast content, fancy, fancy Transformer. And the idea is that these are products that are made by fans for fans, which in and of itself is a really cool idea. And I've been to the point where my collection of Transformers is only almost solely third party stuff, just because nobody else is quite doing what I want or making the kinds of toys I want. Well, you can apply the same nowadays to, it's kind of spread into Gunpla or Gundam model kits, in particular. And this is one of those examples. This is a model kit that was designed by fans for fans, which is, again, like, just the whole idea is super cool. And I'm all over this sort of thing. So this is the Golden Warrior. It is from China, as a lot of these are, but, don't let that distract you. I apologize. I'm trying to get my camera nice and stable on this weird growth I have grown that stabilizes cameras. Anyway, you may notice there's a few things here. Abnormally, there is a very large amount of die cast. I already have an inner frame or skeleton of his lower body, and as you can see, his upper body over there built. And most of this is made of a very, very nice and very hefty bits of die-cast metal. This thing weighs quite a bit. And likewise with the upper body, minus the head. The head is the only part of the armor section that I built, but the internal frame is mostly these nice bits of die-cast. And it's a very high-quality die-cast. There's a little cockpit hatch that opens. There's not much to see in there, though, which is a little bit disappointing. But this is, like I mentioned, a sort of a fan rendition of the really cool design that I feel like is kind of underrated. The Hyakushiki, the full armor Hyakushiki Kai, which was originally introduced in the Zeta Gundam Mobile Suit Variation series. I suppose that needs a little bit of explanation as well. MSV, or Mobile Suit Variations, usually is something that comes out after the end of a Gundam series, where they take a lot of unused designs or new original designs that were meant to accompany the show and kind of just collect them into a showcase. Sometimes they're in books, sometimes they're in web and blog posts. It's all over the place. So in the original Zeta Gundam series, there was a mobile suit called the Hyakushiki. It looked not dissimilar to this. Its most distinctive feature, though, is that it was covered in gold plating. The in-universe explanation for this is that the gold plating was like laser-proof or beam-resistant coating that could reflect, was more resistant to enemy particle beam weaponry, which is the kind of standard projectile weapons within the Gundam universe. So of course, because the Hyakushiki was a mobile suit in Zeta Gundam, they made several different variants of it. Two of them being the Hyakushiki Kai and the full armor Hyakushiki Kai, which is what you kind of get an idea of what it looks like here on the manual. And this is a very, very unique and original take on the Hyakushiki Kai. This isn't 100% line art accurate, otherwise it would be significantly bulkier and chunkier. But just this whole idea, this whole premise is something I am absolutely here for. I will any day of the week give my money to people who are making stuff that, number one, Bandai is not making themselves, even though there is a P Bandai exclusive MG Hyakushiki Kai. It's about the same price as this kit was, and you're getting a third of maybe what you actually get in this kit. Especially since this kit, I will be honest with you, is expensive. This is an expensive product. However, considering everything you're getting, and it comes in 2 boxes, by the way, $90 is not at all a bad price. You get LEDs, you get a full die-cast inner frame, you get extra tons and tons of beautifully coated, this lovely gold meki, as they call it in Japanese. I don't know what you would equate that to in English, but this really gorgeous gold finish that is undergated, so none of the nub marks show through, and you get magnetically activated LEDs. There are LEDs in the head, by the way, right now. I just am waiting on the batteries, so I can't demo it for you. But so far, allow me to very carefully here remove his head and neck. So far what we have built, though, is the first thing instructions are, there's 2 sets of instructions, and the first thing you build is all this stuff, the die-cast inner frame and these die-cast bits that will ultimately connect to the arms. And you build this separately, and then, interestingly, as I will demonstrate here in the instruction manual. By the way, this is one of the coolest instruction manuals I've ever had the pleasure of working with, because you get this phenomenal just readout of, oh, here's the part you're working on. Here is literally a layout of every runner you need and every single part on that runner and the die-cast pre-built component that you've already made. So you can go ahead, if you feel like it, and just find these parts, cut them out, have them ready to go and cleaned up, and speed up your building process. This is such an awesome feature that I wish Bandai used to do similar things in some of their master grade kits, where it would tell you what runners you would need, but they would never go out of their way to beforehand tell you every single part you need, which is so cool. Also, all of the instructions for at least the inner frame was all in black and white, but all of these instructions are in color, and it is just really lovely. The only thing that kind of sucks is that the decal sheet, this thing comes with a pretty hefty sheet of water slide decals that look very high quality. I don't know how well these are going to show up on camera, but they're very hard to see on camera. But these are really lovely, just very Hajime Katoki-esque, he's a pretty prominent artist in Gundam and model kit design. Very, very Katoki water slides. These look phenomenal. I haven't taken them out of the packaging, but there's like a cool kanji symbol because the original hyakushiki had the symbol for 100, which is what hyaku means in Japanese. Effectively, the name translates to model or type 100, but they called it the hyakushiki in pretty much every localization I can think of. So this comes with quite a few water slide decals, and what's very confusing is that the whole manual is in color except for the decal guide, which that's a little bit of a bummer, but it seems pretty thorough. So I'm going to do my best to make sure. I even went out on my way to get some decal solution for this kit specifically. But this was the big kit that I was talking about. There is so much stuff. This box for this thing, the main box. I'll show you the small box. This here, this is just the small box that the inner frame parts come in, and as you can see, I have some extra parts left over. And this is just the instructions to build the die-cast inner frame. You do have to build that, and they tell you to build that first. But this is the smaller box it comes with. The much larger box does not, unfortunately, fit on camera. But it's big, it's yellow, and it has some panel line or line art of just the head and the Chinese characters on it, and then it just says Golden Warrior. So it's not very exciting packaging, but it doesn't really need to be. But to give you an idea, though, so far, as like I said, the progress I've made is mainly I have built the inner frame, which is mostly die cast. All that shiny stuff here you see is solid chunks of metal. It's very weighty. It actually can kind of stand up on its own without like the feet parts. But I've also built the head. There is, interestingly, this little kind of like blue section is actually an optional visor. They actually tell you that because this kit, like I mentioned, creates two particular mobile suits, two distinct mobile suits, sort of. That being the regular Hyakushiki Kai, which is what this head is, and then the full armor Hyakushiki Kai, which is all this extra armor plating you see here. They tell you to not put this darker blue lens or visor over the eyes, because there are translucent blue eyes underneath this that will light up with the LED, the magnetically activated LED, which I have inside the head. But I just think that visor looks really cool, so I decided to put that on early. It's supposed to like at least sort of distinguish the two on the head. I'm not going to do too much articulation because this is very, very stiff, and it needs weight put on it before these joints will move optimally. But there is a good bit of it. It's more or less what you would expect. Double jointed knees, lots of movement and mobility up here in these really cool faux spherical joint systems here. Just more or less what you would expect for a modern Gundam or action figure. It's very nicely articulated. And unlike a lot of previous third-party kits that I've built quite a few. You'll have to forgive me. I'm going to stand up here again to see if I can fit one of these on camera because it's very large. Oh dear. I'm going to kind of lay him... No, okay, that's not going to work. You can only see his legs. He's not a perfect grade size. He's not 1/60th scale. This is the Mechanicore 1/70th, or 1/72nd scale, I believe. So it's in a more modern military scale rather than Bandai's normal scale. This is the 1/72nd scale Mechanicore. I think they named it the Zygophysis or something. This is their take on a Gundam GP01 Zephyranthes. I bring this up because this was sort of my introduction to third-party Gundam kits. I think if you've been in Gunpla or like I've been into this hobby for a while, you've at least sort of heard of the company Mechanicore. another Chinese-based company that makes these just really insane and just overly elaborate bricks of kits that have tons of just frustrating and complex LEDs and are just kind of generally viewed as being just frustrating to build. This one wasn't too bad. This is a newer one of their kits. Their newest one is called the Firehawk, which is a take on the Sazabi. All of their kits are stupendously massive and just huge. Like you can see, this is a 1/100th scale. This is 1/72nd scale, maybe 1/75th. I don't remember. It's not 1/60th scale, so it is still smaller than the perfect grade Gundam Zephyranthes, GPO-1 Zephyranthes, if you want to get one of those. I also, this is like the cheapest version of this kit. That's something else Mechanicore does. But unlike this kit here, this Mechanicore kit, this guy has been nothing but an absolute pleasure. Just fits to the parts fitment and plastic quality has been phenomenal. Nothing short of phenomenal. So alarmingly well. In fact, the plastic quality, it's not maybe as high quality as some of the older Bandai kits, but it's like on par with something like, say, made currently by Kotobukiya, where it's this very kind of crisp feeling plastic, and the parts fitment is just, ooh, really good. Really, really good. It's not perfect, but it's really good. Way better than this thing. So just kind of, I have him here as a more of a visual aid. He's a little bit difficult to handle, so you'll have to excuse me while I return him to the shelf on where he resides. Okay. Okay. I think we're safe. But yeah, that's kind of, this is currently what I have been working on, and it's going to take me a bit. This is going to be a longer project, but I can tell you that just the assembly in general for this guy is phenomenal. Takes really well to panel lining as well. Let me try and focus on it. It's a little tricky to see, but I do have a little bit of black wash in there, just a bit to make it stand out a little bit more. Now there are some kind of ugly gate marks on the underside. It's a little difficult to see on camera, but they do a really good job of hiding those because the parts are undergated, meaning that when they're molded, the part, instead of like say directly connecting to it, the only one that isn't undergated that's really annoying is right here on the antenna that I had to clean up. I wish I had matching, like, so I have my, sorry, this is kind of a tangent. I do have this, but this is not the right shade of gold to cover that up, unfortunately. I'll try and figure something out. But for the most part, though, all of the gold-colored plastic is undergated, meaning that rather than directly connecting to the part, like, say, right here, it's in a hidden place, like on the underside. And so when you cut it off, you have to cut it off from the bottom and clean it up a very, very specific way. But normally, and it is kind of a pain to do. It does make things a little bit more frustrating in the build process, but it ultimately results in a much cleaner looking model. So really, really excited to get this guy going. He also comes with an action base or a stand. It's very clearly a bootleg kind of copy of Bandai's own 1/100th scale action base, and I'm a little weary of it. I've seen reviewers use it in their reviews and have like all this diecast connected to it. There's not really a clear point where it attaches. I'm assuming that might be with the armor, or it might be like a fork type connection where it like fits up between the crotch. Yes, that's how those work. But it could be, I'm a little weary because it doesn't look like it's reinforced with anything in particular. And this is a very heavy, like just chunk of metal on a kind of flimsy plastic base. We'll see how that goes. I'm not banking on it holding up this thing's weight all that well, nor do I plan on doing anything dramatic with it. But I'll do my best to kind of do this in segments. like I did with the Armored Core kits because I can't think of a way otherwise to show this kit because this is big and there's a lot of work to be done. But all positive so far. So, uh, in my personal opinion, well, yes, this is something expensive. This is $90. This is for your other option for a Hyakushiki Kai is the Bandai one that is going to be more than that and it's going to be half as good and you're going to get half as many parts. And I would always, always, always want to give my money to fans who are developing these, hobby, like, these kits that are made by the community effectively before I give my money to Bandai. So I think this is super cool and I'm having a good time with it so far. I'll do my best to provide updates, but things are getting a little crazy around here. But I hope you have a really good Thanksgiving. Yeah. Alright, bye.